just like building a muscle. Doing daily practice, doing meditation, doing yoga, whatever it is you do, walking, hiking, whatever activity that you like to engage in that helps you to harmonize yourself, that helps you to align your experience into the greatest part of your field, the greatest part of who you are, and your awareness of that. That is a process of building a muscle, so to speak. It doesn't happen in a day. It gets better in a day. You can notice change in a day, and that change is going to be typically incremental. It can be small, but it can be great. It depends on your level of resistance and how willing you are to surrender that. Because the ego tells a good story all the time. The ego tells the story of the unconscious part of you that you have stored in the warehouse of the subconscious, right? Every single experience you've had is stored in that warehouse. Every single emotion you felt is stored in that warehouse. And what happens is that when you've given the power to the ego, it looks like this to me. When you encounter life and life comes to you and you're trying to deal with whatever situation you're trying to deal with, your first response is either going to the thing you described. You go to the fight or flight mechanism. You're going to fight it, or you're going to run away from it, or you're going to freeze in the face of it. All of those are ego responses. And remember, that response, that thing that I just described to you, is an active part of our consciousness. It's called the survival mechanism. But because we've so abused our egos, it uses the survival mechanism. We stay in a state of survival continually because of the constant messaging of fear, because of the constant messaging that we're not enough, because of the constant messaging that we have integrated from the outside world that says we're not enough. So when you start to change that viewpoint, when you start to disavow that viewpoint that's out there, when your perspective is no longer reflecting a downward spiral of energy, then you are beginning to build that muscle. And over time, and again, it changes every single time you do it, and it gets stronger every single time you do it. So like in my world now, the ego is still trying to tell me stories, and I catch myself. You know, I was sharing a story. Did I share that with you? I think I did. You know, just briefly, a brief situation where I decided because of my tooth situation that I had now authority about tooths and what that experience was. A little bit ago. Yeah, and so that whole thing is just craziness. But I realized because my friend said when I responded, my friend said something very innocuous about whatever, and I went, oh my gosh. I just literally told him something that I have no experience. I tried to convince him of something that I only have one experience of and I don't have any history with. And so what I did is, and then I call myself out on it right in the conversation. And then I get to laugh about it. And because I laugh about it, I'm not telling myself the tale. I'm not telling myself, or I'm not telling on myself because I'm abusing myself. I'm telling myself to stop it in the moment. To stop that energy right there and go, huh, that's funny. I just made that up. I have absolutely no experience with this.
Yeah.
So please disregard my proclamation, you know, and then it disperses it. So even along the path, it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to happen, but you become conscious of it's happening and don't play with it. You don't engage it. You don't go there. And if you do, you start to feel the rub and you go, oh, yeah, no, that's not okay. Yeah. Let's change that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm thinking. And again, it's not you don't necessarily have to be mea culpa. You don't have to be beating yourself up. You just acknowledge in the moment that, wow, I just stepped in it, and that's okay. Because it's in the taking back of the power in it. That moment is probably the most impactful moment you could have in any given situation, because you're addressing it in the moment and choosing in the moment not to engage the story, or if you've engaged it, to say, oh, I just engaged the story and that doesn't serve me.